Hello and welcome to a little bonus Arsecast on a Sunday afternoon. There are things you could be doing. You could watch Brentford against Chelsea or Fulham against Liverpool, but you don't want to watch Tottenham against Southampton. Nobody needs that in their life, but what they do need is a little bit of Ian Wright. So that's what this is. This is the bonus. This is what you get Sunday afternoon. So let's say hello to the man himself. It is Ian Wright. Hello there.
How are you, Andrew, my brother?
I'm good. I'm good. You know,
Good.
Football has vexed us throughout this season, but generally speaking, I'm keeping chill, you know.
You know, the thing is, I think that this season more than any, coming off of last season, in respect of having to hold my tongue and clench my fists and sit on my hands when I'm doing TV and punditry with how these people are in respects of speaking about Arsenal and how we're whinging or our managers this and that. It's been very, very tough this year. It's been very tough this year to having to bite your tongue, listening to other people the way they speak about Mikel this way. Mikel's not supposed to, because Mikel doesn't make excuses about the injuries. But when I do, and I say, that has got to affect you. And then the refereeing decisions, which I want to speak about today in yesterday's game, was the one I checked out. I've checked out of all that PGMOL and all the rubbish that comes with them and their lack of accountability. It's just, I feel like this team and what they've done with everything that's happened this season, it's been magnificent to still be second. And we're going to now play the winningest team in European football to try and get to the finals of a massive tournament. You know, it's just, people forget. But yesterday, Andrew, was too much for me with the decisions.
Okay, so you're clearly, we're talking about the penalty that was awarded to Everton by Miles Lewis. My thing on this is, right, in real time when I saw that on the TV, I was like, okay, I can see why the referee has pointed to the spot there.
Yeah.
Where I sort of found it difficult what I found difficult to get my head around is the fact that we have VAR, which is supposed to correct clear and obvious errors, and we can go around the houses on this all we want because we talk about it. What's clear, what's obvious is that, you know. But when you look at the replays, I think Miles makes a little bit of an error, but he does not make a foul.
No.
And that, for me, is the difference, right? The picture, I'm sure you've seen the picture. Yeah. Miles is like on the ground, sitting on the ground, basically, and Jack Harrison is standing up, at which point he falls
ready
over.
To go down.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is 100% a dive, and players do that, and players will try and gain an advantage. But isn't the whole point of VAR
to have a look at that?
To have a look at that and say to the referee, actually, I can see why you maybe gave the penalty in real time. Go have another look at that and see what you think.
Because, Andrew, when it first happened, obviously my first reaction was, oh, gosh, here they go. They're going to go against Miles again. I thought, as Miles obviously got on the wrong side, and I thought, is he doing that thing where, you know, where they hold in the other side, Andrew, and we can't see it, but then when VAR sees it, then you say, oh yeah, he was pulling him. But when you saw it, I was thinking, Miles himself, obviously, he weren't holding on to him in a way where, okay, I've seen the line now, let me let go. He wasn't holding on to him. He got the wrong side, then obviously he's off balance, then he falls down, and then the tell for me, without them even looking back, the tell for me is always the reaction of the player is supposedly being fouled. He got up, Andrew, and tried to cross it, Harrison. Right? Remember, he got up and then, so when it first happened, I thought, oh my gosh, they're looking at it. But then I thought, oh God, has Miles got this wrong? Oh, here they go again. He's some sort of crazy guy. He can't stop fouling, getting red cards. When I looked at it, I thought, oh, this will be fine because they will. Remember, I'm sitting in the studio with Leon Osman from Everton, and I said, they'll definitely overturn. When they didn't, right, I just thought to myself, well, what is the actual point? What is the actual point? And then, you know what people have totally seemed to have glossed over on or just totally ignored? The tackle on Ethan Nwaneri early in that game from Patterson, right? Over the ball. I don't think Ethan realises how close he came there to being out of the game for a little bit of a time there because he was aggressive, over the ball, not even a yellow card.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the referee thing. I'm not going to give them any time in respects of, oh, they're this and they're that. I don't want to jump on that one. But honestly, I believe that tackle that we saw the other day on McAllister from Tarkowski, I think it was Paul Tierney doing it, should never, ever be doing anything to do with refereeing at that level again. If they look at that and don't give a red card. That penalty yesterday, the fact that the referee forgot with the time and then added the time, and it's got to a place. They're not held to any account, the PGMOL for a start, and they're continually making more and more terrible decisions.
How do you, as somebody who played the game, as somebody who's, been a pundit for many, many years, how do you view the sort of refereeing standards where, look, you played at a time where the game was much more physical, it was more brutal, and, it was just part and parcel of the game, right?
Yeah.
Tackles went in, things were said, all of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it seems to me that despite new rules to offset some of the physicality, like the banning the tackle from behind, things like that, we're now in a situation where violent conduct, things which are actually dangerous on the pitch, are being routinely ignored. And I want to put this, I think the best way to discuss this, and you mentioned the Alexis McAllister Tarkowski incident the other night, which I think is a great way of framing it, because, if we talk about this sort of stuff, people will go, well, it's just Arsenal fans bleeding about, decisions that don't go their way. And I think for anything to change, we have to be a bit more objective about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, the routine ignoring of bad tackles, elbows, things that are considered really, really physical, but they crack down so hard on trivialities.
Yes.
Yes. And there's no common sense in that for me. I don't really understand why, unless they're trying to sort of reignite what was the sort of the Britishness of the game and that physical element, which I think we all enjoy when it stays the right side of the line. But this like super focus on, small things and players being punished for small things and players being led away with things that they should absolutely be punished for.
Well, yeah, but the thing is as well, Andrew, when you back in our day as well, obviously, like we saw a Tarkowski challenge. And of course, we saw now and then one of those crazy guys with a tackle like that. They get away with it and they catch people and are out for a long time. But you knew at that stage, you have to know that the first tackle's free. You can go in as like a Tarkowski challenge when we were playing, and that's free. So you have to have that in your mind, which is something at the time you didn't realize the real consequences of if they did catch you, what could happen. But you just got on with it because that was the times. But now, for a tackle like that, what wouldn't have looked out of place in our day, to not be a red card, and really we're talking about, in respect of a punishment, really putting down a punishment that makes players really think twice about going in like that. Then I cannot understand what they're talking about in respects of like Lewis Skelly's one. They're saying was he holding on to the laws the way they make the laws, Andrew? It kind of They write them in a way where Lewis Skelly was holding on to him in an aggressive manner. You know what I mean? It's like, and we're supposed to say, oh, okay. And then you watch it and you think, well, actually, Lewis Skelly wasn't holding on to him in an aggressive manner. But if we're talking about aggressive force, then Tarkowski not being sent off for that totally throws everything in the air in what they're doing, Andrew, because now I haven't got a clue. Fans haven't got a clue. Ex-players ain't got a clue. Fans haven't got a clue. Players haven't got a clue. You know what I mean? It's just, it's spoiling it, Andrew. It's spoiling it. And people will say, oh, right, here you go again, because Arsenal on the wrong side. No, but it's spoiling it, not only because it's happening to us a lot, to the point where people are constantly saying, oh, here he goes again, but to the point where I don't want to watch simply because I know that at some stage the referees or something's going to happen to a team or to our team that's just like so ridiculous and so unnecessary when you have all the elements in place to make sure that these things don't happen, Andrew. Something happens to my heart. Something happened to my heart yesterday. You know, and I was just like, I'm just tired. I said, get Andrew on the phone.
We'll try and talk you around. But I mean, I think there's a really interesting aspect to this, right? And let's bring it back to Miles. And I think, you know, I'll ask you about, you know, how you feel about, you know, the sort of focus on him that's been there in the last little while. He's been sort of red hot in all kinds of ways, right? But when the Wolves red card was given, there was quite a lot of pushback in the reaction to it, and like a lot of people saying this is the worst decision that we've ever seen, right?
Ever.
Loads of people said that, and like independent of Arsenal, lots of people were saying that. I even watched a bit of Sky Sports yesterday afterwards. There was a former Spurs defender, Michael Dawson, was on there talking about it, going, "Oh my God, that's so soft." Like, he wasn't saying it's never a penalty, but he was saying it's really, really soft. They brought Mike Dean in, and Mike Dean basically said, "Well, the referee's given it, so that's what we've got to do." But like the commentators, the pundits, the people, on the air, when you see something like that, how dangerous is it to sort of say, well, that should not be a penalty, or that's a dive by Jack Harrison? Are you in danger of like singling somebody out in that way? And in the world we live in, they kind of, become a little bit of a target for,
listen, Andrew, there's obviously you're always on there feeling like I got to be careful what I say, because you don't want to get a pile on for people. But when you see, when like, for instance, we talk about the Miles Lewis-Skelly one against Wolves, there's nothing in place that says I can't just go to town on what I feel about the people. But when you get a situation like the Miles Lewis-Skelly at Wolves, you're free to say, this is now a situation where we have to like go, wait a minute, this can't happen. Wait a minute, this can't happen. That's let everybody. It's got nothing to do with the referee getting it wrong, the VAR getting it wrong, or anything. It's just like whoa. We've dropped to a standard now where that's wrong. That's not a sending off. He should not be sent off for that. End of. But for them to be able to not only give the sending off and then double down on the fact that it was a sending off, when everybody said to yourself, well, it's not a sending off. Everything, all the aspects of it, there's so much space, there are players around him. It was just like a professional foul. But when that can go through all the so-called different levels of refereeing and they say, yep, send him off, then we know we have a serious problem. We saw the one with Trossard at City. We saw even Declan's one. So we're talking about sending offs, right? Well, you don't really see. You don't really see those things. Now, people say, yeah, here they go again, Arsenal moaning about it. But we've had some, which for us is like being, well, man, come on, man, what's going on? But then you see what's happening around the rest of the league, tackles and bad decisions. It's throughout the league. I watched the Celtic Rangers derby a couple of weeks ago, Andrew, and we're talking about proper atmosphere, proper energy and vibe and tackles. The referee didn't book anyone for 35 minutes with all that intense pressure and everything what was going around. It was one of the most enjoyable games I've watched for many, many years in what's going on. And that was just because we had one referee who was in total control of what he was doing, didn't feel like, oh my gosh, Big Brother's watching me, I've got to do it. He let things ride. The game was brilliant. He didn't book someone till 35 minutes, and that was because it was consistent fouling. And the game was magnificent. It ended up, 3-2 to Rangers. It was brilliant. I have not seen a game in the Premier League for I don't know how long where we can say that referee was brilliant. That referee, whether in the VAR, as a body together, them two as a team together, we could say the referee and the VAR today were magnificent. We enjoyed that game. I have not enjoyed a game in the Premier League for a long time. And one of the reasons is I'm waiting for the bad decision now. We know it's coming somewhere along the line. We can't celebrate a goal because, like we say, right, let's wait because then they have to check at VAR, check on VAR because, like, to see if you can actually celebrate. So they've taken that away from us. And, like, there's no accountability to these people, Andrew. I think that it's catastrophic what's going on with the decisions. And I think it's going to have a long-term effect on the way people enjoy the game now.
No,
I don't enjoy the game at the moment.
I've seen people say the same thing because of the way things are being officiated. People might make the counterpoint that, if you win more games, this doesn't become as much of an issue. But when games are impacted by refereeing decisions, it's finding that balance, isn't it? I mean, where do you think the solution lies then? Is it a complete overhaul of PGMOL? We can't put the genie back in the bottle when it comes to VAR. I don't think that's, realistic as much as, you might be able to make a very good case that the game would be better without VAR. It does seem that, let's say in the Champions League, the officiating tends to be a little less intrusive, or we don't notice the referees as much as we do in the Premier League. That every week whether it's an Arsenal game or another game that you're watching, the referees are increasingly central characters to every game, aren't they? So how does that get fixed?
Andrew, the thing is that I believe that goal line technology and VAR used properly, and when I say properly, Andrew, I mean looking at that decision yesterday with Miles and saying, no, that's not a penalty. That's not a penalty. They should have played on. Now, when you get that person who comes in, who's able to make a decision where he doesn't feel like there's so many different levels of management that he's probably going to have to answer to for him to instinctively make a decision and say, no, common sense says to you that Miles Lewis-Skelly has not touched him. He's dived. Let's play on. Now, I don't think we're asking to try and find the brain surgeons of referees here. We just want right-minded people who can look at someone and say, no, that's a dive, or that is a dangerous tackle. No, that's not a yellow card. That's a red card. I think VAR has to be here in some format, simply because if it's used properly, Andrew, we could then make those decisions right. That's like goalkeeper technology is brilliant simply because there's no subjectiveness to it. It's either over the line, it's not over the line, no matter how many millimeters. But when you're seeing challenges and decisions that are going where we can all, who are watching it, see, well, he's not touched him, but they still make the wrong decision. Andrew, that comes down to the competence of the people using it. Now, if they are incompetent, then you have to get better people. It's always, for me, Andrew, we need better referees that are not afraid to make a decision on VAR, because VAR is definite, isn't it? If it's offside, it's offside. But the tackles in that are things that are subjective, where you need people with common sense who are not afraid to say what they're going to say. Like, no, it's not a foul, without worrying about it, because we're seeing too many decisions, Andrew, where we're thinking, how have they doubled down on that? Look how quickly they apologise for McAllister tackle, 9 o'clock the next morning. McAllister could have been in hospital as we speak, and there was no punishment there. But at the same time, from a referee's point of view, to look at that and say that's not a red card, Andrew, it's not VAR, it's the people using it. Sure. They're not good enough. Simple.
Let me ask you about Miles then, because you know he's been in the spotlight primarily because he's been so good and so brilliant. I think we saw even yesterday the reaction to the red card did not let his head go down. We know what a character he is, and you know, that run that took him from his own half to the edge of their box, where I think it was actually Tarkowski who tackled him and got a yellow card. You know, do you worry at all about how he might be perceived within the game?
Absolutely not. I think that the way people perceive him is something that's going to happen, whatever happens. With just the way he is, you know, he's got energy, he's got vibe, he's got ambition, he's talented beyond, like, I don't know, you know, the word I'm looking for, Andrew, he's so talented. Let's just say that, and he's so focused, and the management team and his mum and everyone around him, the noise that's coming is the noise that comes when you are a young black player who's come in and you are all of a sudden elevated to somewhere where, oh, hang on a minute, we're not ready for this. Who's this guy? What, you know, he's so good. And then all of a sudden, off of the back of Erling Haaland's foolery, Miles does a peaceful protest in respects of his celebration, and all of a sudden it's Miles who's the bad guy. What you've got to look at is the pattern. This happens, especially with young black players. They're finding a way to bolt on the problems. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's black. People were saying, and I won't mention them because they're not worthy of mention on certain radio stations, that he needs a clip. He needs to drop down a couple of levels. For what? He hasn't done anything but play. He's had a couple of red cards, which are just ridiculous. You know, this is why yesterday, when that happened, I'm thinking, oh, here they go again. They're gonna start it up with Miles. Oh, he's a thug. He's this. That's what people were saying about this guy, and he's done nothing. How many games has he had, Andrew? 17?
Yeah, but I don't know.
And we saw what he done when he played for England. You know how brilliant he was. We're talking about somebody that, for some reason, there's people who feel like people saying things like, He needs to know his place. Things that people used to say to me, he's a bit uppity. But he needs to know his place. Now, we're talking about a young guy. Like I say, he's got a management team around him and his mum and everybody. It will be fine, Andrew, because he's too focused. But at the same time, we have to look at this situation and see, why does this happen? Why are they doing it to him? Why can't he just play and be? What they will realise with Miles as time goes on is the kind of man that he is. And it's only time. Yeah. They'll do what they do with the tabloids and all that, and it's time will make them understand, like they did with me. They thought that I was some sort of nutcase. You know what I mean? Like the way I played and what I was doing, and sometimes the insubordination and but the fact is, I knew I never done anything wrong for them to have me in the newspapers like they did. But look now, people are talking about me like I'm not even going to say it because it's embarrassing to say about national treasure stuff. That's what the kind of vibe they go down. But I've always been that person. But the way they tried to portray me was a different guy. I had to be the pantomime villain. But I know that there's enough people around Miles to recognise what's going on because we're years ahead of that kind of journalism now. You can call it out. There's platforms that can challenge them. Sure. So he will be fine. But in respects of a player, Andrew, another one that we found in this gold mine that's called AL End for players, it's a magnificent testament to Per and Arsenal Football Club, the kind of players that they are producing for the first team under a manager like Mikel Arteta. The levels that you have to have in respects of your intelligence to play in his team. At 17 and 18, we're dealing with some special talent here that we have to look after. In respects of anything else, you know what? I sit there and listen to people talk about my manager because they don't like him just because. No real reason, they just don't like him. But I am 100% behind Mikel Arteta and anything he does. I think Andrea Berta is going to be brilliant for us. I thought it was a great move, us getting him in before the season ends. You look at him as well. Have you seen him, Andrew? You look at him, when you see him, he's got a look of, he's a very serious man.
Yes, it seems like that, doesn't it?
It's a beautiful appointment. And I think it's, again, from Mikel's point of view, people talk about what Mikel, he's overseeing everything. He's the one, he's turned into Arsene Wenger. He's the one that's in charge of everything. For Mikel to bring in Andrea Berta and say to Jason Ato, listen, I want you to bring him through, show him around the place, shows that he wants a different voice. He needs somebody that's going to challenge him. Because until we get people in there like-minded like him, who can actually tell the manager, no, this is going to be what's right for you and this and that, and he listens, is how we end up winning the big tournaments, with people around our manager who can tell him, no, we need to do this and we need to do that. You know, he's what's he got? 2 La Ligas, 2 Champions League finals with Atletico after 2. This is a great appointment at a great time, Andrew, and I'm very excited. It looks like we may come second 3 times on the spin, but hey, we are continually improving, and this season's going to go down when we do finally win the Premier League, which I know will happen in my lifetime. Then this season is the one I'm going to have as the one I laughed at with everything what happened to Arsenal in this particular season.
Let me ask you just finally then about Tuesday and Real Madrid. Yeah, I think it's fair to say we could be in better shape. Yeah, with injuries and player availability and fitness. You know, Bakayo's back, but I think you could see Goodison Parky. Yeah, those are minutes that would be very useful to him rather than him making an impact in this particular game. But is there something about a game like this, you know, and you've been involved in big European games for Arsenal in the past, like what is the mood going to be like on that training ground today, tomorrow, Tuesday, the build-up, the anticipation, the knowledge that you're playing against, you know, the greatest team in European history? Like, is that something that, you know, as a player, you absolutely relish and look forward to, or do you have that sort of, I mean, I think as fans, we have a certain amount of trepidation, but as a player, are you just kind of like... You're locked in now, Ange.
Gimme. You know, the thing is, it doesn't make no difference about who's missing and who's not missing. We know that, and we are going against the winningest team in this competition. We are climbing Everest without enough equipment to get up there. Let's just put it that way. But we know that people in the past have done that. Now, as a fan, now watching this team, you know, with Gabby gone now, you know, with Saka coming back half fit, we know that this is a massive mountain to climb. But can you imagine the journey? If you go into this game and you've already checked out simply because of who we're playing, this is a David and Goliath confrontation, if we're going to be totally honest. And we know what happened in that with that scenario. Now, that's what I'm praying will happen. Now, as a player, Andrew, you're going in, if I'm Mikel Arteta, especially if I'm Mikel Arteta, and you're going to make those Real Madrid players prove why they are playing for Real Madrid and why they are the winningest team. Mm-hmm. We're not going to go there and roll over. So I'm going there to play the best I can, because when I'm a child, Andrew, I'm dreaming about playing against that level of opposition at this stage of a competition. So I'm not going to get there now and look behind me and see that, okay, we've got so many injuries. There's so many excuses for us to think, well, we could check out of this one because it's the great Real Madrid. And no. As a player, you're going in and this is the game. This is the game, because now I think for every one of those players, this particular moment is the biggest game of their lives. So you don't go into that feeling like, okay, I know what people's missing, so if we lose, it's going to be okay. You go in there and say, Real Madrid are going to have to prove to me today why they are Real Madrid. That's the vibe. That's the energy.
I mean, you've got to be confident in the manager's ability to get what he needs to get out of these players, right?
And then the players' ability to realise the scenario they find themselves in and go to another level so as they've got a story to tell their grandkids.
Yeah.
You know, I was speaking to Thierry the other day, Andrew, and he went through the team. Can you remember the team when we beat them 1-0 over there?
Yeah, I was there. I was at that game.
Andrew, the team that we had, I think Flamini played left back.
Left back, yeah.
I think it's Aboué. I think we didn't. Did we have Kolo Touré?
I think Kolo Touré and Philippe Sandros.
Can you get the team, Andrew, just quickly?
Yeah, I can.
It's so relevant to what I'm saying, because Thierry was talking about it going into it, and it's the same kind of question. What do you think? And I said to him, the answer, I said to you, we've got to go there and believe we can do it. And he said, do you know the team? And Thierry, obviously, he was able to reel off the team, because obviously he remembers it.
Okay, I'll give it to you now.
Give us the team, Andrew.
Lehmann, Aboué, Touré, Sandros, Flamini, Fabregas, who was still quite young at the time. Young Fabregas, Gilberto, Hleb, Reyes, Ljungberg, and Henry.
Now, come on. If you look at an Arsenal invincible team in that era, and look at the players that's missing from that team that went to play a Real Madrid team that Zidane, Ronaldo was there.
The Real Madrid team that night was Casillas, Chiquinho, Roberto Carlos, Jonathan Woodgate, Sergio Ramos, Guti, David Beckham, Zinedine Zidane, Thomas Gravesen, Robinho, and Ronaldo up front. And on the bench they had Cassano, Raul, Julio Batista, Michel Salgado. Some good players in there. I think it's
still the kind of game where you're still going into the same Real Madrid with the same mentality of winning. But we beat them. And obviously you got the X factor with Thierry in that team. But it's the belief. It's the belief you have to go into that game with. And like Thierry, that's exactly what he said. Can't think about what's going on in respects of where we are, where we are with our team. Madrid are coming to us and we've got to show them, you're at our place, it's not going to be easy. Sure. And when we come to yours, we are going to make sure that we have the same energy of not losing and trying to win the game. That's all we can do. And we've got to do that. I think that for the fans, our manager wouldn't have anything less.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, potentially, it's, it could be great. It could be the thing that reignites this season. And look, I know it's something of a long shot, but you've got to hope, you've got to dream. So
if you're not going to, as an Arsenal fan, go into that game until we physically see ourselves that they're toying with us, why would you go in there with any other attitude other than we're going there to win? Why would you?
Yeah.
What are you going to go to? If we go over to the Bernabeu, if they come into our place, why are we going to sit there and say, "Oh, let's show them, let's let Real Madrid just show people how great they are"? Andrew, no man, let's just get in some faces.
All right,
let's be dogs. Let's be dogs in this game and go and get it.
All right, some bite,
bro.
Some bite. Okay, well, listen. It is a pleasure as always to talk to you. Hopefully, do you feel any better now after having that little bit of a chat?
You know something, Andrew? I feel so much better. Like my cats have just come in and around. They just came around my legs. This is
lovely.
I get the cats to come on and sit on my lap just for a bit. And then it kind of like, they suck away the negativity. And so they're just coming around me now. So I'm going to go back and sit with them. But like, I do feel better, Andrew.
Good.
I do feel better because sometimes you just need that.
You do. Well, listen, I'm always here if you want to do that and do this I'm here. The listeners are here. It's a pleasure as always, Ian Wright.
Always
Thank
a pleasure, Andrew. God bless us. God bless all of Arsenal.
There you go. My thanks to Ian Wright. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to talk to him. I hope you enjoyed that this afternoon. We will, of course, have an Arsecast extra for you tomorrow, delving more into the game against Everton on Saturday, as well as the game against Real Madrid. We'll take your questions as we always do. So that's going to be out for you on Monday morning. And on Monday afternoon over on Patreon, we will have an episode of The 30, which we're going to combine with our preview podcast. Because, well, time is tight. We're playing on Tuesday, so we're going to do the Premier League review, which is the 30, and preview the Real Madrid game over on Patreon on Monday afternoon. Please do join us for that. Patreon.com/Arseblog. Remember that this month, every penny that we make from Patreon is being donated to good causes. So if you want to jump on board and get all that extra content, as well as helping some people who really, really need it, you can do it for just $6 a month. Patreon.com/Arseblog. Right, I'm going to get on with my Sunday. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed this little listen, and we will catch you on the next one. Until then, cheers. Bye-bye.